Today I'm having fun trying to develop a new tool. I don't know what it is about this. Maybe it's just the creative aspect, but I just love it when I see a problem and then we sit down. I sit down with my mechanic, Jerson, and we hash out, well, what can we do to make this tool better? And you're probably already thinking, oh yeah, I know what tool he's talking about. You see all these instrument clusters out here on the workbench, and this is the dash pull tool that most of you are already familiar with if you worked on any of these older Mercedes-Benzes. You know, back in the 60s, you had to get under the dash and get your hand up in there and try to unscrew these two knob nuts in order to get the instrument cluster pulled out of the dash. And sometimes it was a real pain. You really bang up your hand, you know, you're wrecking your back trying to do that. But I think it was with the introduction of the W116 chassis and some of the later 114 and 115 chassis, they did away with that nut connection on the back side to hold the instrument cluster in. And what they did was they used this rubber seal. It's kind of a flexible seal with these notches in it, so when you push the cluster into the dash, it holds it in place. So to remove it, you just pop it out. Well, after a while, you know, I think this is a 115 chassis right here, and I'm looking at it, and I'm not sure whether they really designed this for the dash pull tool. There's a little bit of a notch right there, right in front of the seal. But when you look at the 116 instrument cluster here, you can see there's a definite location where the hook for the dash pull tool is supposed to go. Well, if any of you have done the job to pull it out, maybe you've been a little frustrated like I have been. You're trying to push this through the dash, get in behind there and try to hunt and feel for where you should hook onto it. And sometimes it would slip off, and if you're not careful, you could even wreck or break the plastic part out loose from the cluster, or worse yet, you know, damage the padded dash. So that's kind of why I decided I wanted a better tool. I wanted a tool that would let me know when I went in far enough. I wanted a tool that when I rotate right to the right position. And then I wanted to be able to have a tool that would allow the hook to push in tight against the cluster. Because on the straight tools, sometimes you'll push it in and you'll start pulling, it'll slip out. And that's really frustrating. You know, I've taken a number of these clusters out over the years, and I've seen quite a bit of damage, quite a bit of gouging and scratching. And so it's obvious somebody else has had this same frustration. So this is the tool that I've come up with. I've chosen to use a little bit harder wire that's not quite so flexible. I've chosen to put a little bit longer hook in the end, and then I've chosen to use this angle, a bend in the wire, and that's a very specific reason. Number one, it's going to allow you to know how far you've pushed it in. Number two, if you put a side load on it, this will give you a spring, tight spring tension against the cluster housing. So when you do pull it out, you'll have a good grip on this plastic right here, and it's going to come out without damaging it. What I'm going to do with this tool set is I'm going to provide a video instruction, and I will take each one of these clusters that you see here on the bench. We'll go through each one, and I'm going to show you a close-up of where the point is on the housing that you should put the hook. So when you pull, it will come right out. And they're different. Believe it or not, they're not all in the same location. They're not even at the same depth. So you kind of need to know which is your chassis, what is the instrument cluster housing design like, and I'll do that in these video instructions that will come with these tools. So we're going to actually be able to sell these tools cheaper than the OE ones from Mercedes-Benz. Now we've sold these for years, the OE ones. I felt they're better than a lot of the aftermarket ones out there. So I'm not trying to say that this is a bad tool. I just wanted to come up with something that gave me a little bit better feel. This is a personal thing, but here's another example. See, when you push this in to the dash and turn it, you're pulling this way. And that's kind of an awkward way to pull. I prefer to push the tool in and put the handle vertically, so I'm pulling like this. And I feel I get a little bit more strength, and of course, side loading the tool for more tension against the plastic housing is much easier if the handle is vertically up and down, not horizontal. So that's just a minor improvement. Once again, it's not to say this is a bad tool. I just wanted to come up with something that was easier for us to use here in the shop. And I think my mechanic and some other people have said, yeah, that's really a nice improvement, Kent. So we're going to offer these now on our website. They'll be offered with a number of our instrument cluster dash light kits, upgrades to LED lights, and so on. And each time we include this, whether it's by itself or whether you're buying it in one of our light bulb kits or instrument cluster overhaul kits, that video instruction that I'm going to do will be included for free. So if you're interested in these tools, just check out the Show More below this video description, and it'll take you right to the links on my website. During production, I decided to add rubberized handles to these new pool tools. It really gives them a good feel, and I think reduces a little bit of the fatigue when you're pulling on some of these clusters that are really hard to get out. And let me tell you, there's a couple of them that are really tough, particularly the W140 and the R129 that you see here. I've got a couple tricks that I'm going to include in my instructions on how to get these really tough clusters out without having to pull off the under dash panels. Now, as a parting note, I want to talk to you W123 owners. This is the cluster that's probably the easiest to get out, but it's also the one that is the easiest to break. And that's because the plastic is glued right along this edge, and I've seen so many of them broken like this. It's because somebody has gotten the dash pull tool right out here on the edge and pulled the plastic face right off. So be a little careful when you're working with a W123. Make sure you get it in far enough that this hook tool is catching those notches right there, not the edge of the cluster. And this is a good time too to upgrade to LED light bulbs. Be sure and check out my website for all my LED light bulb kits, instructions, and tools that go with them.